Kelly Ripa was wearing a stunning, brightly colored dress, a deliberate choice, perhaps, to fight the grayness that clung to the air. But her usual effervescent sparkle was gone. Her eyes, usually wide with playful mischief, were ringed with a heavy, sleepless shadow. She sat straighter than usual, a tiny fortress of controlled composure. Beside her, Mark Consuelos sat in silence, his hand resting on the desk, knuckles white. The rugged, confident charm he wore like a second skin was absent, replaced by a deep, weary sorrow that seemed to age him in real time. He was the anchor, but for the first time, he looked like he was barely holding on himself. There was no signature opening gag, no mention of the weather, no immediate dive into the pop culture headlines. There was only the uncomfortable, prolonged stillness. Kelly cleared her throat. It was a tiny sound, magnified by the studio microphones. "Good morning," she managed, her voice cracking slightly on the first word. She looked directly into the camera, and her polished, celebrity veneer finally fractured. "If you're tuning in today, you'll notice things are a little different. And we just want to take a moment, right at the top of the show, to address something deeply personal." Mark shifted in his seat. He took his hand off the desk and gently placed it over Kelly's. It was a quiet, protective gesture, the kind of nonverbal communication that only 30 years of marriage can forge. "We talked about this last night," Mark began, his voice a low, rough rumble, stripped of its usual smooth cadence. "We debated whether to come in at all, whether to hide it. Because what we do here, what Kelly has done for decades, is start your day with light, with joy, with an escape." He squeezed Kelly's hand. "But our relationship with you, with the viewers, with this studio audience, it's real. We share everything. The good, the silly, and the parts we wish we didn't have to share." Kelly nodded, tears now pooling in her eyes, but refusing to let them fall. This was the discipline of a woman who had performed through every life event. "This past week has been the hardest we've ever had to face together," Kelly continued, her voice gaining strength as she channeled the emotion into articulation. "We've been fortunate. In 30 years, Mark and I haven't really faced a true, staggering loss in our immediate family. Our parents are here. Our children are healthy. We've always acknowledged that. But life doesn't care about your gratitude list. It just keeps happening." She paused, taking a visible, shaky breath. The entire studio was silent. Even the technical crew seemed to be holding their breath. "The update we have to give you, the one we weren't ready to share, the one we hope we never have to deliver, it's about Joaquin." The name hung in the air, heavy and devastating. Joaquin, their youngest. The college wrestler, the quiet, thoughtful one. The boy whose every minor milestone they had shared with the audience. Kelly's face crumpled. Mark immediately pulled her close, letting her lean her head against his shoulder. He kept his gaze locked on the audience, his eyes dark with pain. "As many of you know, Mark took over, his arm wrapped tightly around his wife. Joaquin has been home from school for the past 3 weeks. He suffered a serious injury during competition. We downplayed it publicly. We said it was a long recovery from a ligament tear. We kept it palatable for consumption." He shook his head slowly, a single tear finally tracing a path through the faint stubble on his cheek. "The truth is the injury wasn't just physical. It started there, yes. But over the last week, the doctors discovered complications. Something they missed. It led to a diagnosis that it's an absolute battle. It's the kind of thing that steals time, that requires every single bit of his strength and ours." Kelly lifted her head, her face blotchy but determined. She gently pulled the microphone closer. "We went from talking about him returning to the mat next semester to discussing protocols for a whole other kind of fight," she whispered, her hands clasped so tightly they trembled. "They told us he has a very rare, very aggressive form of connective tissue sarcoma. It has already metastasized. We are starting chemotherapy tomorrow. He's home now. Lola and Michael are both here. And we are all just shattered. The shock was immediate and palpable. A collective gasp rose from the audience. This was not the light-hearted terror of missing a beloved dog or the emotional tremor of a successful career milestone. This was an existential blow, shared in real time. Kelly wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, suddenly regaining a fragment of her host persona, the one that needed to comfort the audience as much as she needed to be comforted. "We're telling you this not for sympathy," she insisted, her voice raw but firm. "We're telling you this because for 30 years, you've been a part of our kitchen table. And right now, our table is covered in medical charts. We're asking for your love, your prayers, your positive energy, because we need every single bit of it." Mark shifted, turning to face Kelly fully, their shared grief momentarily eclipsing the audience. He looked at his wife, at the incredible, tiny powerhouse beside him, and the protective, desperate love in his eyes was blinding. "We weren't ready for this update," Mark repeated, his voice thick with emotion. "We weren't ready for this news. But we are ready for the fight. And we will get through it. Together." As the camera pulled back to an overview of the set, the audience was no longer applauding. They were simply sitting, many openly weeping, hands clasped over their mouths. The usually bright, vibrant screen was now filled with a crushing, shared sorrow. The news had landed, sending a shock through the thousands of fans who felt they knew the family, the beloved, chaotic, perfectly imperfect Consuelos clan, shattering the illusion of celebrity immunity and revealing the cruel, universal vulnerability of life.